to talk about the ANC Lekgotla, which took place over the last few days. To unpack the outcomes of that, we're now joined by political analyst Sandile Swana. Sandile, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Peter, and your viewers.
All right, so from the outcome of this Lekgotla, it sounded as if there were things that were being mentioned there that in the ordinary course of business wouldn't have been mentioned, like protecting the judiciary and the Constitution.
Yes, they are being mentioned because at the end of the day, if we cut to the chase, there are people who would like the former President Jacob Zuma to not go to jail, and regardless of what the Constitutional Court has said and what our laws say and what the Constitution says. So that is where that is coming from. But more recently, a broad attack, if you like, or criticism of the judiciary and the Constitution has happened. But that attack by Lindiwe Sisulu did not actually say that Jacob Zuma must not go to jail or that Isma Khashula must not go to jail and so on and so forth.
So how do we...
It questioned whether...
so how do we read into...
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, carry on. You were saying that it questions what?
It questions whether the Constitution as it stands today, whether that Constitution is grounded on African values and on African law in South Africa, rather than being a Constitution that seeks to enforce English law and Roman Dutch law on Africans to the detriment of Africans in Africa. So it would raise a general question, but we know that at the moment, at the core of conflicts within the ANC, it's the central question of the comrades that are being taken to court and under threat of serving very long sentences. And people are then saying they ran the state, stole the money for a legitimate cause, which can perhaps be moralized and legitimized if we adopted African faith.
So, you know, people will say, but hang on, it's 28 years down the road now, maybe even 26 since the Constitution came into full effect. What's different now that they couldn't have seen, those that are worrying about the Constitution, that they couldn't have seen over the last decade and a half?
Yes, I've said this before. I think that the ANC lacked statecraft, they lacked political savvy when they negotiated, they went through the CODESA process. They went into the CODESA process broke as a church mouse. They didn't have any money themselves individually. They didn't have money as a political party. And at the end of the day, they were winking at each other, knowing that they were going to get the money by stealing government tenders and all sorts of things like that, which were illegal. And that because they would be controlling the state, they would use their control of the state to immunize themselves from prosecution. Allow laws that are very strict on corruption, but control the state so that the state cannot arrest. That was always a risky maneuver. And the DA has exposed them by making sure when they tried to make the trial of Jacob Zuma for the arms deal to disappear, they failed because they were challenged in terms of the laws that exist. And lastly, you cannot say, as you correctly point out, once you are caught by the laws that exist, then ask that laws that did not exist at the time of the offense must be passed in Parliament so that the offenses you've committed are no longer unlawful offenses because you've passed a new constitution and new African laws, etc., etc. The whole thing is a hogwash, it's a misguided enterprise that sends the whole nation on a wild goose chase.
All right, so now the president reads the outcomes. He addresses the party and the nation, effectively, on the outcomes of the Lekgotla. we are to assume, I'm guessing, that this is a collective view of the NEC. What does that tell us then about those within that collective that perhaps were supporting a different view?
No, we know that the president has got some majority in the NEC. He has been able to actually go along and offer people positions and so on and so forth and strengthen his hand and buy over some of the RT forces, if you like, the likes of Mbalula and others who crossed over to the Ramaphosa, the CR17 side. So he's been able to use state power and institutions to solidify his position. But at the same time, the statements that were made by the president, the collective statement, are so vague that each statement could have 15 different interpretations. So it shows you that this is not a very powerful, decisive NEC meeting either. Whether you are in business or whether you are in the legal fraternity, you still don't know what these people are going to do exactly.
But he goes on to talk about, we support the state capture report, and that goes after a certain faction as well, doesn't it?
Look, the only way let's put it this way. If they wanted to say that they are going after a specific, the people who are in the report, they would have said, okay, if your name appears in the report and you are a member of the ANC, your name says you must be charged. We will not wait for your criminal charges. We will charge you for bringing the ANC into disrepute. So this is what we are going to do. People in this category, this is what we are going to do. People in this category, this is what we are going to do. People in this category, this is what we are going to do. Right now, they've formed a three-member committee. If I remember correctly, Lamula is there, Jeff Kadebe is there, Nechitenza is there. These people are the ones who are going to formulate a discussion document that is going to be distributed to the branches and educate the organization about the report. And the last time they spoke about this, I think they said they are going to work on this until 2032 on resolving these issues. So that thing, they are going to be doing something. As to what it is, this something that they are going to be doing in terms of what we would have expected them to do as an organization, that is the number one accused in corruption. We do not know what they are going to do other than to form this committee.
The president also says we will be principled and decisive in ridding our movement from practices that prevent us from serving the people with distinction and honestly. Does that mean we might see some kind of purging of personalities? Or what does he mean? Is it simply just procedures and practices? What does he mean?
After listening to that statement, I went back to the records of the African National Congress. Nelson Mandela in 1995, just over August 1995 to be specific, made a similar statement at the anti-corruption summit with business. He was sick and tired of corruption in the ANC, corruption in business and corruption in government. And he was saying, I want action, not tomorrow. I want it today. If you go and read that. He says, I don't want action about corruption tomorrow. I want it today. That was Nelson Mandela. So the statement today by Cyril Ramaphosa and the NEC of the ANC is a statement that virtually every state president of the ANC has made. It's not new. Therefore, the question is, how gullible must be any person who listens to this statement, say, this statement, I believe it, I accept it as the truth, something big is going to happen. If Nelson Mandela himself, he said, today, not tomorrow. I want corruption to be uprooted today, not tomorrow.
He went on to talk about intensifying the renewal of the movement. What needs to happen for this renewal to take place? Because again, as you say, this is language that we've heard before.
The renewal that Mandela had in mind, and he spelled it out, unlike what Cyril Ramaphosa and the NEC are doing. He said, expel these careerists, expel these thieves from the ANC. And the likes of Thabo Mbeki, who were the sharp end of the spear, the Cyril Ramaphosas of the time in 1995, never did anything about this. So unless the crooks, the criminals, and the counter-revolutionaries, as they call them, are physically expelled from the ANC, the criminality will not actually end. As things stand today, Ramaphosa himself has actually stated that there's an insurrection in the country. And an insurrection to throw him out, actually, to throw out the state president, Ramaphosa himself. And an insurrection to endanger the lives and businesses of South Africans in South Africa. And yet he has not mentioned the names of these people and what he's doing, and he's taken the whole security cluster into himself and is keeping us in the dark, and news are coming out that he's got everything under control when we see almost all hell breaking loose all over the country. So the issue is that you cannot have detente, you cannot have Tunadereng, you cannot have Fakani Milomo with criminals in South Africa. That should not be happening. He should be expelling them. The NEC should be expelling these people. And they must stand there. The counter-revolutionary is one side, the revolutionary is one side. And then if there's a fight, let it be clear who's fighting.
So this spat with his tourism minister, it really has become a topic of debate, and perhaps even extending beyond just what was said in the article itself. For a minister to defend her position so strongly, after it looks like the president might have said, this is what I need you to do, does that make their relationship untenable?
No, the relationship is totally untenable. It may well be that behind the scenes, the hawks and other people are working seriously in unearthing incriminating evidence against Sisulu as well. So you may well find that in any case, all hell has already broken loose behind the scenes in any case, and Ramaphosa is unable to stop the hawks or any other person who may be going for Sisulu. So she's got nothing to lose at this point in time. She really speaks as someone who's got nothing to lose. Either she believes sincerely that Ramaphosa can be thrown out, or she wants to go down with a big bang.
All right, so we've run out of time, but is he going to be forced to fire her? What, is that where we've got?
I don't think this NEC actually said anything about firing her. I don't think he got a mandate to do that, because part of this NEC was to give instructions. This meeting, this was not just it was an NEC Lekgotla, which means the cabinet ministers, all the ANC employees were there to get their marching orders. So Cyril did not get a mandate to fire Lindiwe from this meeting. So if he does it, he will do it out of his own initiative, and then the street fight will break out.
All right, I'm going to get into trouble because we've run out of time, but I don't want us to leave this conversation and be about one thing. Was there anything else that the president said about the outcomes that we should have paid attention to, do you think?
Yes, I think the last thing perhaps we can talk about is the compact, this so-called compact on the economy. Again, this idea of bringing as many sectors of society together to start doing something about the economy, a stokvel of some sort, a galelo of some sort. Mandela did that already in the early 90s. He did that. And he even said that the cabinet members must donate one day's salary, workers donate this. A big galelo of a thing that amounted to zero. And the network was eventually launched, it amounted to zero. So we don't know what compact they want to bring together now, what form it will take, and what studies have been done to say, in fact, you need a compact. So this is another potential thumbsuck to deal with the economic crisis that is unparalleled in the history of this country. So I think that is another thing we need to take notice of. and brace ourselves for another disaster.
All right, Sandile, always great talking to you. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Your insights, greatly appreciated.